Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we're tackling a question that many of you have been asking, especially with all the buzz in high-tech markets. Is quantum computing, or QUBT, a good time to buy now? We've gathered some pretty fascinating insights from a stack of source material to help you navigate this, well, high-tech, high-stakes market. Before we really dig into this, if you're finding value in our discussions, please, hit that subscribe button, like this content, and leave us a comment. And hey, if there's a specific company you want us to look into, just let us know in the comments below. We might just feature it in a future discussion. So, for this particular question about quantum computing, we've pulled together information from two key documents, QUBT, Quantum Catalysts and Future Projections, and QUBT, Quantum Computing Stock Analysis and Rating, NET. Our mission here is to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge so you can walk away feeling, hopefully, well-informed about where this company stands.
Exactly. Our goal is really to give you a clearer picture, cutting through some of the noise to understand the foundational elements and the speculative potential. We'll look at recent movements, upcoming events, and those core financials that kind of paint the landscape for quantum computing right now.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Quantum computing has certainly had, well, an intense period of volatility lately. What have been some of the major movements and news points over the last 3 months, maybe starting with September?
Yeah, it's fascinating how fast things move here.
Yeah.
It really underscores the market's hypersensitivity to quantum news. So in September 2025, for instance, the shares surged by about 6–7% on September 12th.
Okay.
And this was mainly driven by investor optimism around some fresh breakthroughs in photonic quantum tech and a string of new commercial orders. It really signals that heightened market excitement.
Right. Those early breakthroughs really spike the optimism, don't they?
They do. It shows both the huge potential and the speculative risk involved.
Yeah.
Also in September, they completed their TFLN photonic chip foundry in Arizona.
TFLN?
Yeah, thin film lithium niobate. It's this cutting-edge material for building tiny, super-fast optical components. So this foundry is basically their dedicated factory for these light-based chips. It's a big step.
A big step for scaling up commercialization, I imagine.
Exactly. Sets the stage to meet anticipated demand. And they also announced some strategic collaborations at the Lake Street Capital Markets Conference, including one with NASA.
Wow, NASA. That positions them pretty centrally then.
It does, at least in terms of research and next-gen computing potential.
Okay, that's a lot for September. But I noticed in the source material, just a few days after that bullish news, the CEO sold a significant amount of stock. How does that fit with the optimism?
That's a really critical point, yeah.
But,
and it ties into August, which brought more of a, let's say, reality check with their Q2 earnings release on August 14th. Quantum computing met analyst estimates, but it was still a loss of $0 or $6 per share, and revenue was tiny, just $60,000.
$60,000, wow.
Yeah, highlights just how early stage they are, despite the high expectations. And then, yes, that insider transaction. CEO Yuping Huang sold 1 million shares in early September.
1 million shares?
At an average price around $14.41. Now it prompted scrutiny. Could just be financial rebalancing for him personally?
But it doesn't look great, does it, when leadership sells that much?
It definitely raises questions for the market about, internal confidence. Lots of conflicting signals there.
And the stock volatility itself was a major story in August too, right?
Absolutely. That period was really defined by incredible stock volatility, heavy trading, big short-term price swings. Analysts were basically debating whether the current valuation even makes sense given the future market opportunities. Lots of movement, lots of speculation.
Okay, so September's buzz, August reality check. What about July? What groundwork were they laying earlier in the summer? Did they expand their reach at all?
They did. In July, quantum computing announced its expansion into Asian markets, specifically South Korea, with their quantum photonic vibrometer product.
Okay, trying to diversify revenue streams.
Exactly. Pushing for a broader commercial footprint, getting early products out there. They also apparently secured some significant commercial orders for their newer quantum tech and deepened ties with research institutions, again, trying to bolster credibility.
So we've seen this roller coaster. Market highs, reality checks, expansion efforts. What does this whirlwind really tell us about the company's strength, or maybe its fragility? And what's on the horizon now, say, the next 3 months?
Well, connecting the dots, the coming quarter has some really crucial dates you'll want to watch. October 8th, there's the completion of ETF rebalancing. That can impact index flows, automatic buying or selling.
Right, passive money moving things around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then October 31st, we get the institutional 13F holdings filings. That's when you see which big funds, hedge funds, asset managers are buying or selling.
Always interesting to see who's involved.
Definitely. Then November 13th is the big one, the Q3 earnings report. This one will get a lot of focus, especially given their high cash position versus that ongoing challenge of turning the tech into actual revenue.
So investors will be looking for what exactly? Order updates, cost control?
All of that.
Yeah.
Order book strength, cost discipline, any new commercial wins, anything that shows they're making progress beyond just R&D.
And there are a couple more dates later in the year.
Yeah, November 25th, there's a holiday technology market review, maybe some PR opportunities there. And December 2nd, an institutional investor buy window opens. Changes in ETF makeup, new institutional disclosures, especially after that CEO stock sale. These could really affect sentiment and trading.
Okay, those are the knowns. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, right? The Whisper Network. Beyond the confirmed dates, there's this whole world of rumors and speculative catalysts swirling around quantum computing. What are some of those whispers?
And this raises a key question for you, the listener. How much weight do you actually put on these unconfirmed things? There's persistent speculation, for example, about quantum computing potentially landing a major Department of Defense quantum computing project.
Oh, that would be huge.
Huge, multi-year revenue tailwind, massive credibility boost. It would fundamentally change the risk profile. A real game changer if it happens. Then there are also rumors they might be set to announce proof of concept results for their room temperature photonic quantum processor.
Room temperature, that overcomes a major hurdle, right? The cooling needed for most quantum systems.
Exactly. It could accelerate mainstream adoption, make it much more accessible, commercially viable, a potentially big leap forward.
And what about bigger market movements, like getting into a major index?
Right. The high trading volume and performance have sparked chatter about maybe getting included in something like the Nasdaq Q100.
Which triggers automatic buying from index funds.
Loads of it, large passive inflows. And finally, there's unconfirmed talk, sort of in merchant banking circles, that a major tech company might be looking at them.
For an investment or even an acquisition.
Either a minority stake or an outright acquisition, yeah. Because of their partnerships and IP portfolio, it shows people see the potential, even if it's just rumor for now.
Okay, fascinating stuff on the rumor mill, but let's get back to the ground. Talk about the company's actual financial health. What do the fundamentals, the hard numbers tell us?
Well, fundamentally, quantum computing is still primarily pre-revenue. It's all about R&D and very early commercial activity right now. For Q2 2025, they reported an operating loss of $10.17 million. That actually widened from $5.27 million the year before.
So losses are increasing.
Yes. And the loss before income taxes was amplified by a big $28.1 million non-cash mark-to-market loss on warrants.
Okay, explain that bit. Non-cash loss on warrants.
It's basically an accounting thing related to the potential value of future stock options they've issued. The paper value went down. It doesn't impact cash directly, but it highlights how complex their financing is and the potential risks tied up in it. The bottom line is still highly negative. High R&D costs, very limited revenue streams.
So lots of investment going out, not much coming in yet. How's their cash situation then? Are they okay for now?
Well, as of June 30th, 2025, they reported a pretty robust $348.8 million in cash and equivalents, working capital of $346.3 million. Management says this is, quote, adequate to meet obligations for at least the next 12 months.
Okay, so they have runway.
They do. And they carry basically no meaningful long-term debt. They rely on equity placements and those warrants for financing.
But that means they're a cash burn business, constantly needing to raise money, right?
Precisely. They fund operations through capital raises. Notable ones were $100 million in January 25 and about $200 million in June 25. Their quarterly operating cash burn is over $10 million. So they have to keep going back to the markets.
And that leads to dilutive risk, doesn't it? Issuing new shares reduces the value of existing ones.
Exactly. Each time they sell new stock, existing shareholders own a smaller piece of the pie. It's a critical factor for anyone thinking long-term here. That risk is very real.
And how do they stack up against competitors? You mentioned giants like IBM, Alphabet. It feels like a David and Goliath situation.
It absolutely does. Quantum computing is in this nascent sector, targeting photonic and room temperature hardware. They're definitely early stage compared to the giants. While they champion their specific photonic approach, IBM's pushing superconducting qubits, IonQ has trapped ions. Others are advancing rapidly too.
So it's not just about the tech, it's about the whole ecosystem.
Right. It's a race for dominance. The bigger players have more capital, stronger partnerships, deeper customer integration.
Yeah.
Things quantum computing is still building. So while they claim unique assets like that TFLN Foundry and their Dirac 3 platforms, the competitive advantage, it's still speculative at this point. No clear economic moat visible in the disclosures our sources looked at.
Okay, let's shift gears then to the technical side. For those listeners who watch the charts, what does the price action, the indicators, tell us about quantum computing?
Well, as of September 12th, 2025, the stock closed at $15.11. Over the past 3 months, like we said, very volatile. It traded between roughly $12.80 and $16.50 a share. Those sharp moves were often linked directly to those capital raises and the insider selling news.
So key levels to watch, support and resistance.
Yes, support seems to be observed around the $12.50 to $13 level. That's been a bit of a floor. Resistance seems to be near $16.50 to $17, acting as a ceiling recently.
And what about things like moving averages? Or RSI, MED, what do those indicators suggest?
Okay, so the 50-day simple moving average is around $14.40. The 200-day is lower, around $12.20. The stock actually showed a breakout above those longer-term averages in recent weeks, which usually suggests some positive momentum building.
Okay, and RSI.
The Relative Strength Index, which measures price momentum, is near 62. That's a bit elevated, suggesting bullish momentum, but it's not quite in overbought territory yet.
But the volatility risk is still high, even with that momentum.
Incredibly high, yeah. And the FCD indicator, that also shows some positive divergence, again suggesting bullish momentum. But functionally, given the sector and the company stage, this remains very much a momentum and speculative trade. The technicals are really driven by news and sentiment more than underlying value right now.
So lots of movement, high volatility is the constant theme. It sounds less like a steady blue chip and more like a high-performance race car. Fast, exciting, but risky.
Extremely high volatility, that's a perfect analogy. The stock frequently has these 10% or greater swings within the same day.
Yeah.
That's amplified because it has a relatively small float, fewer shares available for public trading.
Makes each trade have a bigger impact.
Exactly. Combine that with heavy retail speculation and those news-driven spikes. It's very active, but very risky for traders.
You mentioned the CEO selling shares earlier, 1 million shares, that's a big flag. What else is happening on the news front, especially around insider activity and just the general market mood?
Yeah, that insider selling is significant. And it wasn't just the CEO. On September 4th, CEO Yuping Huang sold that 1 million shares at 14.404 cents. But also, Director Javashabani exercised and sold all his option shares over August and September. He holds 0 shares now.
0 shares? Wow.
Yeah. When key management sells substantial shares, especially within a short period like that, it could definitely be seen as a negative sentiment signal. Raises serious questions, as you said. Also worth noting, quantum computing isn't widely followed by the big Wall Street analysts, the bulge bracket firms.
So you don't get those major institutional upgrades or downgrades driving the narrative?
Not really readily available, no.
Yeah.
A lot of the sentiment seems driven by social media, which is highly volatile, reflecting that speculative retail interest and that recent insider selling. It has certainly triggered some bearish talk in retail forums, so the narrative isn't consistently positive out there.
Okay, so given everything we've discussed, the breakthroughs, the catalysts, the shaky financials, the technical picture, the insider selling, the sentiment, what's the overall outlook? Is quantum computing a good time to buy now?
Well, quantum computing's path in the near term is clearly going to be driven by its pace of commercialization, those key earnings results we mentioned, and this ongoing story around institutional positioning. Investor focus is just fixed on seeing proof of revenue traction, more strategic partnerships, and there's definitely potential upside if those really bullish speculative rumors, like a big government contract, actually materialize. However, when we step back and look at the complete picture from our sources, the overall investment rating they give quantum computing is a 2 out of 10.
A 2 out of 10. Wow, that's quite stark. I mean, some people might argue the sheer long-term potential of quantum computing is so huge that these early risks are just the price you pay. How do the sources weigh that massive potential against these immediate problems?
That's the core tension, isn't it? The sources definitely acknowledge the potential of the technology, but the rating reflects the company's current state. So yes, they have that sizable cash runway for now, but it's heavily offset by major negatives. Almost no revenue, rapid cash burn, and that constant reliance on equity dilution, which hurts existing shareholders. Plus, the competitive position looks weak against the big established players with way more resources. There's no clear, unique advantage, no economic moat evident from their disclosures.
Okay, so the potential is there, but the business fundamentals are lacking right now.
Exactly. And the technical setup is also seen as purely speculative. While you might get sharp price moves on news, the combination of insider selling and that fundamental immaturity really limits the long-term value proposition according to these analyses. There's a high risk of permanent capital loss for investors, and it's all clouded by that pattern of frequent insider selling. It just adds up to a very cautious low rating.
So what does this mean for different types of investors listening? It sounds like this stock isn't for everyone.
Definitely not. For you, the listener, understanding your own investment horizon and risk tolerance is absolutely key here. Our sources suggest quantum computing is suitable only for highly risk-tolerant, speculative traders, people aiming to capitalize on short-term volatility and those event-driven moves we talked about.
And for long-term investors.
Not recommended at this time, primarily because of that high dilutive risk, the lack of visibility into future profitability, and just substantial operational uncertainty in a field that's still very much emerging and hyper-competitive. It's really a buyer beware situation if you're looking beyond short-term trades.
That's a very clear summary, thank you. So for quantum computing, the picture seems to be one of high innovation, definitely high speculation, but also significant risks, particularly for long-term investors. It really highlights how important it is to look beyond just the exciting headlines and dig into the data.
Indeed it does. And it leaves you with an interesting thought, doesn't it? In a sector like this that's evolving so rapidly and is so speculative, how do you personally weigh that potential for truly groundbreaking innovation against the very real, tangible risks of a company still trying to find its commercial footing, especially when you see insiders selling shares?
That is a fantastic question to ponder. We hope this exploration of quantum computing has given you a clearer understanding. Thank you for joining us on Investing Talk podcast. Before you go, if this discussion sparked a thought or maybe another question, please share it in the comments below. We always want to hear what companies you'd like us to look into next. And if you found value here, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next market analysis. Until next time, keep learning and make informed decisions.